everybody. My name is Robin Garris. I'm CEO and Principal Analyst of MetriSight, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Matt McConnell, who's the Chairman and CEO of Intradiem. Now, Intradiem focuses on automating functions that boost productivity and experience of customer service teams, so contact center agents, maybe even some inside salespeople. The technology that Intradiem develops, is just critical for today's contact centers. Why is that? Well, more experienced agents in all of our research, every time we look at this, we have more experienced agents, they're going to drive higher CSAT. Customers are happier with them. So we want to make sure we keep them. And that is definitely getting harder and harder to do. I mean, attrition rates have always been an issue in contact centers, but I think it's getting even more difficult because of the demands that we place on agents. So the average number of simultaneous chats, for example, that a single agent will handle is 5.8 in our last research. I mean, that's a lot. And even you think of sales quotas. Right now, we see about 54% of companies assigning sales quotas to their customer service reps. So it's a new kind of stress and pressure that they may not have had before. Now, some like it and some are doing very well with it. Some, are a little challenged with it. And they're also getting all the challenging calls because so much now of things like, oh, what's your overnight mailing address? And I want to make this transfer. I mean, a lot of that can happen in self-service channels now. So what's going into the live agents? Well, every call is kind of like like a challenge and a problem that couldn't be resolved with self-service. So you can tell by that it might add a little bit of stress and pressure. So I want to start, Matt, by just asking you, just talk about the top reasons that companies come to you. That why do they come to Intradiem and why do they stay with you? I want to make sure that people understand what you guys are doing, what's driving companies to you, and then we'll get to some really cool things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having me on. And it's a good way to start. Many, many years ago, we started with this problem statement as a company. The average person in the developed world will spend 123 days of their lives on hold, in line, or sitting at home waiting for a service tech. And we just think in 2023, that's crazy. When you think about the modern product experience, you can order literally anything you can think of, any obscure part or product you can think of off the internet, and it's at your door in 24 hours. And yet you and I still will spend 123 days on hold, in line, or sitting and waiting for a service tech after we've given somebody our money. So we set out to solve that problem, and we decided we were going to use technology to attack and solve kind of long-standing issues in and around the contact center: efficiency, agent efficiency, agent effectiveness, and agent engagement. And so that's why companies come to us, is to solve these long-standing problems like attrition that you mentioned. And the reason they stay with us, I'm convinced it's because many companies have, values, and oftentimes it's a bunch of gobbledygook. We have 3 values that we live out every day, and I really believe that's why customers come back to us. Servant's heart, a craftsman's attitude, and revolutionary spirit. We really spend a lot of time as a company making sure that we're living out those values. And as a company, we've had the last 2 years record NPS scores, record
Awesome.
all-time high retention, and all-time high expansion within our clients. So that's what I think about why customers come to us and stay with us.
Yeah, I love your values. I hadn't heard that. Matt, you and I have talked before. This is going: a servant's heart, craftsman's attitude, and revolutionary spirit. Did I capture that right?
Got
I
it.
I don't think I've ever heard of a company looking at business that way. So I love it. I really think that's cool. So now, when we look at attrition rates or turnover rates, however you want to call it, our research showed a big jump over the pandemic. It's settled down a bit since then, but it continues to be a big area of concern and focus for companies for obvious reasons. I mean, it's expensive to replace people. When our research, it's kind of all over the place. When I looked at our data, I mean, there are some smaller companies, the average rate for them is about $1,800 to replace an agent. And I think that that's probably a little bit low because they're really just probably looking at maybe recruiting fees or something like that. But when we talk to our midsize and larger companies about all the factors, so recruiters, the time to interview, that's very time consuming. The HR time and hiring and getting everyone onboarded, the IT setup, the training on the applications and just on your product and customer service and everything else. And those companies are reporting anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 to hire a new agent. I mean, that's substantial, and that really adds up. So if you can hire an agent, they last for 6 months. That was a big, big loss. So that's just, I just kind of want to talk about why I see that as a big concern. How does Intradiem help companies to retain their agents and to keep them happy?
Yeah, well, so historically, we've had a really big announcement recently this week, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But historically, many of our use cases measurably improve agent engagement, which of course improves agent retention. We do things like surprise breaks based on, maybe an agent's taken 3 really tough calls in a row, where, the system will automatically inject a surprise break in there. Or maybe they've done something really good and the company wants to recognize them. They'll insert a surprise break. We've partnered with some companies that have some great content like Thrive to deliver these Thrive breaks to agents during
Okay.
downtimes, or we'll help them adjust their breaks based on the calls they're on and what they're working on. So they don't
Mhm.
have to worry about their breaks getting, shrunk down,
Yeah.
things like that. A lot of automation that really helps the agents have a better workday. But we've just announced a solution specifically aimed at attrition and targeting agent burnout. And so this week, we announced that our attrition product, which was just released, can predict attrition. It's an AI product. So it's
Okay.
able to predict attrition with 80% accuracy and help the manager head off that attrition before it happens. So the key here is being able to see it coming and then being able to head that attrition off before it actually happens, giving them a kind of an early warning system.
80% accuracy is pretty incredible. Honestly, that's in fact, that was what I was going to talk to you about next, is just really looking at AI and how you're using AI and machine learning to predict when there might be a problem. So, can you explain a little bit more about it? Like, how does this work? What types of AI are you using? Maybe walk me through a scenario if I'm a contact center supervisor, and I don't know that somebody's getting, is on the
Yeah.
risk of burning out and leaving. Like, how does this help me?
Well, so as you said, it's a longstanding problem. We see within our customers 40 to 70%, some of our customers as high as 100% attrition. And as you mentioned,
Yeah.
very expensive. And we see customers closer to the higher end of what you said, about $30,000 a person. And the most expensive part is that learning curve of getting that new agent that you've hired and trained and all those things actually up to the level of productivity. That's where most of the
Yeah.
expense comes from. Um, and so for every 100 agents, attrition costs of between $1 and $2 million per year.
And
That's 10 to $20 million a year for a 1,000-seat contact center. So it's a big, big problem. And it's a problem we've been trying to help our customers with for years. But one of the things that we saw is Intradiem collects millions and millions of data points every day on contact center agents, their schedules, their call handling times, their breaks, their training, their coaching, their whole time, everything you can imagine. Millions and millions of data points a day. And
yeah.
we just had this hunch that the fingerprint of attrition was in that data. It's too much for
Right.
humans to try to pull apart, but it's an absolutely perfect fit for artificial intelligence. But you got to have the data, and that's one thing Intradiem has. So our contact center experts developed this hypothesis about what was driving attrition. And then our AI team went to work building models to test out this hypothesis. Essentially, what you do is you look at people who've attrited, and then you look
Okay.
backwards at what are the things they had in common, and
Oh,
are they
yeah. Yeah.
correlated, and so on. So after about 18 months of hard work and billions of data points, the team put together this product that has a dashboard that we can put into the hands of our customers that, as we've said, predicts attrition with 80% accuracy and provides them with recommendations to head it off before it happens.
So, what? I want to talk a little bit about those recommendations and also like what are some of the recommendations, but also if you could answer what correlations have you already been able to draw from early adopters? Like maybe it's kind of like they do kind of fit together, I guess. What correlations have you drawn, and then what kind of recommendations do you make?
Yeah. So we this dashboard will organize attrition risk into four categories: low, medium, high, and critical.
Okay.
A lot of our clients said, you know what, when it gets to critical, it's probably too late. So they want to start reacting when attrition risk gets to low and, of course, medium. And so what we've seen is there are different recommendations at different stages of
Okay.
attrition risk. And we've also tested this across clients in different industries. And the model holds true. As we said, it predicts with greater than 80% accuracy, and it's getting better. We think by 2024, sort of by the end of this year, early next year, we'll reach 90% accuracy as the
Mhm.
model just processes more and more and more data. And as we've said, we just know that the fingerprint of attrition's in that data. Too many variables for a human to sort of spot in there,
Yeah.
but it's perfect fit for AI. And what we've seen, and it's very early, we've had data flowing through this for some time from our clients, was very early actually deploying it in clients with actions to take to head it off. But what we know is that the sooner clients act, the better the attrition improvements are. And so what we're seeing clients do is really orient their attrition to avert the attrition, orient those activities early on the part of supervisors, as well as some automated actions they can take to help head those off.
So what you mentioned your dashboard. So if I'm a supervisor or an agent, I don't know if agents can see things too. And what can I see on that dashboard?
Yeah, what you'll see is agents and then their attrition risk. And so it might say, Matt McConnell is a medium attrition risk. He's been in this category for this number of days, and it will tell you historically kind of what categories he's been in and out of, right? Because
Okay.
we all have bad days, bad weeks, and it
Yeah.
shows up in the data, right? If you mentioned you just took a red eye back, your data, if somebody was collecting data on your day today, might suggest that you're not feeling great about your work today. But tomorrow you recover and everything's fine. So it's not
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
what your risk is, what someone's risk is, but how long have they been in that risk category? And what are the
Yeah.
recommendations that the system's making for you to try to engage with that agent and prevent them from attriting?
So some of the recommendations I can imagine will be, telling a supervisor to actually take action and do things or have a meeting or whatever. But some of it is actually automated within the system. I think you mentioned like, surprise breaks and things like that. What can companies automate and just say, okay, let's do some automated things here first because we've only got so many supervisors and they may not be able to handle things as quickly as we'd like. We want to make sure they don't escalate, at least stay level until the supervisor can get in there and figure out what's going on. So what kind of
Yeah.
like automated things do you recommend?
Well, and so we're still validating those actions to see which ones have
Okay.
the biggest impact in reducing attrition because it's brand new on this product. But
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
what we do know is it's kind of like boiling water. You want to reduce boiling water to a simmer and then simmer to flat water. And so a lot of that can have to do with training and coaching. That the agents don't feel equipped for the cues that they've been assigned to. They haven't gotten the appropriate training. It might be as
Yeah.
simple as making sure they're getting the appropriate training.
Okay.
They may not have the tools they need to do their job. And so more time with their coach. Oftentimes agents get, about an hour a month with their coach. And it may have been 3 weeks since they've had
Yeah.
time with their coach. So scheduling that session with their coach so the coach can say, hey, listen, I see things are, you're having some challenges and just tell me how you're feeling, what's going on. And just giving the agent that time with the coach can help. You mentioned surprise breaks.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's their schedule. They're working the wrong schedule. Maybe their kids'
Yeah.
schedules have changed and they need a different schedule, and they're starting to, it's starting to show up in their work. So there's a lot of actions that we can take on an automated basis.
Yeah.
And as I said, we're validating those in the fourth quarter of this year. By the first quarter of 2024, we'll have really good insights into which actions to take
Awesome.
at which stages of attrition risk.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you more about that when that comes out because I think that would be very interesting Just great, interesting
Sure.
data to see. It's just a matter of knowing when your agents are in those positions, and that's obviously what you're doing is telling them
Exactly.
that. So I have to ask you about generative AI because that's all everyone talks about these days. Do you expect that generative AI is going to be part of this at some point? In order to do things like maybe interpret or classify actual words spoken by an agent, or something like that. I mean, do you see that manifesting in any way, shape, or form, or at this point is it not really a fit?
Well, it certainly has the potential to be. One of the things that's happened is AI existed before OpenAI, and we all know
Yeah,
that. But
right, right.
generative AI has kind of stolen the oxygen out of the room, and a lot of people, if you ask them what AI is, they'll say, "Oh, they'll describe generative AI," but it's so much
Right,
more than
right.
we are using math and the data about what's showing up in their performance as a predictor. We also think interpreting what happens in the interactions can be a benefit as well and make our models smarter and smarter and smarter. But it's not required to be able to make the predictions, as we've seen at 80 and going to 90% accuracy. So we're using the math side of artificial intelligence. What we have is all this time series data about everybody's performance, as I mentioned, all the data, millions of data points a day, to see the fingerprint of attrition in the data. So
Yeah,
possibly generative AI becomes a part of the
no.
solution. It's not necessary today.
Okay, got it. So, you think about agents, and then some of them they don't want to be developed, but they like their jobs the way they are. I always think though, if you train or coach them, no matter what position they're in, if they're as happy as can be, or if they're in, critical for leaving, you train and coach them regularly, they're going to be happy with their jobs. They're happier with their jobs. There's a link. I think there's a link to being obviously happy with your job, staying with your job, and your customers also being happy. So I've always thought that if an engaged and well-educated agent is in your pool, they're going to, be better able to handle the job, more likely to stay, more likely to drive CSAT. I mean, our research is showing these types of things that, agent wellness in an agent leads to lower attrition. Companies that have an agent retention program in place have lower attrition, things like that. So, given all that, among your early customers so far, what kind of success metrics are they seeing through detecting burnout and agent issues early on?
Yeah. So the success metrics, obviously, the top success metric is going to be, how much did my attrition reduce?
Yeah.
Um, and people will measure attrition reduction in sort of before and after. That's going to be the top measure. But as I said, Robin, we're just releasing this
Okay.
product. We've
Okay.
tested it a great deal with all the data that's flowing through our platform, and we know we can predict it because we see when agents leave the schedule, we're now able to predict with a high degree of accuracy they were
Okay.
going to leave, and they indeed left. So that'll be the top predictor. Nobody wants to be able to say, wow, I predicted they left and they left. They want to be able to say, I predicted they were going to leave and I took actions to head it off. Most of our early clients, people are signing up for this almost sight unseen. It's like I've never seen before. Um, most of our early clients believe that they have the systems in place to head it off. They just need an early warning system. And
Okay.
so we're giving them that early warning system. And as I said, we're validating all the actions they're taking to head off attrition and all the actions that we're taking. So again, by this time next year, we'll have a whole full closed loop system that can predict it and head it off.
So, do you have any, I don't know, any predictions? What do you personally anticipate? I know it's not. I know I'm asking you this not based on hard data at all, because, like you said, you've just kind of rolled it out. But and there's some things we can't control. I mean, some people are going to leave for reasons that there is not a darn thing any of us can do about it. Maybe it's something personal or whatever, and it's just showing up in their work. But so if you consider all that, and what do you think that a product like this, how much do you think it can reduce attrition?
Yeah, I think
Give me
I'll
a
start.
range.
I'll
To
tell you the number,
range.
and I'll tell you why. I think we can cut attrition in half, the
Wow.
historical rates in half. And the reason I think that is once there's a breakthrough and you start to understand what's causing it,
Yeah.
and have real data to show what's causing it, and also real data to show what you can do to avoid it. Listen, the financial motive, the motive for profit is the strongest motive in the world right now. And so as soon as you can identify, and we have, what's causing it, and then you can, start to head that off. I think we're going to be able to address at least half the causes, if not more, of what's driving attrition.
I know, and sometimes it's like even you think of an employee who may not have gotten a raise in a while, and you look at all of a sudden their CSAT and average handle time and all their KPIs are good, and it's like, why haven't we given this person a raise? And giving that person a raise, yeah, sure, it's gonna hit the bottom line a little bit, but not as much as having to replace that person, at $30,000. So I mean, and now you've got your experienced person who's still there and happy and feels appreciated. So it's really interesting. It's a fascinating study in just like human behavior and how we can affect it through the use of technology. I guess as we wrap up, why do you think other companies have not done this before? I mean, what makes Intradiem well positioned to provide this type of product, compared to anybody else? Like, how can you do this, and why is no one else doing it? Because it seems to me like, wow, this is a great tool.
Yeah, two reasons. One is we have the data. We were one of the early players in SaaS. A lot of our customers, we were their first SaaS partner. So a lot of the vendors in the contact center have lots of data flowing through their platforms, but their platforms are on the customer site. As an early SaaS player, we have tons of data. So that's one. Two is just artificial intelligence. And I think, so I'm an optimist as it relates to artificial intelligence. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. I think we're going to find, just in the same way we're finding out who's going to attrit, we're going to be able to see what people who have cancer have in common. I really am optimistic about this technology. And this is just the first of many problems we're going to point this technology at. So we've got a great AI team and we've got great data. So I think this is just the first of many long unsolved problems. We're going to go target football resolution next, Robin.
Awesome. That would be that. I'd like to hear about that some more. We'll definitely have to talk about that for sure. All right. So anything else you want to say in closing? I mean, where can people get more information about this new offering that you have? I mean, are you selling it direct? Do they need to go to, channel partners? How can they get this?
Yeah, first, intradiem.com is the best way to find out. There's a webinar coming up in a few short days that you can either attend live or it'll be posted on our website, all about the solution and how you can learn more about it.
Awesome. Well, I think it definitely gets you to your your values that you mentioned earlier, and then also you talked about efficiency, effectiveness, and engagement as sort of core goals of what you do at the company. And I think this really helps, it aligns very well with that. It's going to make, it's absolutely going to make companies and agents more efficient, more effective, and also help the engagement, for sure, with customers. So, Matt, thank you for taking out the time and telling us about this today. I think the viewers are going to really enjoy learning about this product and also just how it's going to help their companies and their attrition reduction. So
thanks for having me, Rob. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.